One sentence. That is all it took. A man who spent 9 years in the same dressing room as Cristiano Ronaldo, who lifted 4 Champions League trophies standing next to him, who watched him become the highest goal scorer in the history of the sport, looked into a camera and said the greatest player football has ever produced has a different name entirely. Sergio Ramos, February 2023, PSG TV. Calm, unprompted, carrying more weight than any debate show panel ever could. This is not a story about a feud. Ramos never said a negative word about Ronaldo. Not one. This is a story about a man who had every reason in the world to give a different answer. 9 years of trophies, of battles, of shared glory, and still chose Messi. By the time you have the full picture, you will understand exactly why that choice landed the way it did. February 2023. Sergio Ramos, then at Paris Saint-Germain, speaking to the club's own in-house television channel. Not a tabloid ambush, not a leading question carefully designed to bait a headline. A calm, considered answer given in a completely controlled setting. Syndicated afterward by Goal, PSG Talk, Sport Bible, Give Me Sport, Sportskita, and All Football. The wording remained entirely consistent across every single outlet that carried it. No version of the quote differed in any meaningful way from any other. On the record, unambiguous. His words, "There was suffering for several years playing against Messi. I am now enjoying him. He is the best player football has ever produced." Read that again, slowly, because the construction matters. There is no mention of Ronaldo in that sentence. No comparison drawn out loud. No shot fired across anyone's bow. Ramos does not say Ronaldo is inferior. He does not rank anyone beneath Messi by name. He simply states, without hesitation and without qualification, that Messi is the best the sport has ever produced, and that is exactly why it lands as hard as it does. This was not manufactured controversy. This was not a soundbite engineered for clicks. This was a man who had spent nearly a decade of his career playing for and alongside Cristiano Ronaldo, being asked a simple question and answering it with complete honesty. The silence around what he did not say speaks louder than anything he could have chosen to say directly. Because to understand why that silence carries so much weight, you first need to understand exactly who Sergio Ramos is, what he built, what he won, and precisely what he owes to the man whose name he did not say. This is not some pundit with a microphone and a platform. This is not a former teammate offering nostalgia dressed up as analysis. Sergio Ramos played 9 years alongside Cristiano Ronaldo at Real Madrid from 2009 to 2018. 9 years. Not a lone spell, not a brief overlap in a dressing room at the tail end of a career. Nearly a decade of his absolute prime, built shoulder to shoulder with Ronaldo in the biggest club matches the sport produces. The trophy cabinet proves it. 671 appearances for Real Madrid, 101 goals, 5 La Liga titles, 4 UEFA Champions League titles, 2014, 2016, 2017, 2018, won directly alongside Ronaldo, in the very era that Ronaldo himself used to build his entire global legend. 4 FIFA Club World Cups, and, with the Spanish national team, a 2010 World Cup winner, 2 European Championships in 2008 and 2012, and the most capped player in the entire history of Spanish football. Now place that against his time with Messi. 2 seasons at PSG, 2021 to 2023. Approximately 45 to 46 matches played together. 1 shared goal contribution in the same fixture. 2 Ligue 1 titles and 1 French Super Cup. That is the complete sum total of Ramos's direct playing experience alongside Messi, a fraction, in time and in trophies, of everything he constructed with Ronaldo. Ramos announced his retirement from international football in February 2023, the same month he gave this quote, and continued his club career at Monterrey in Liga MX through the 2025 to 2026 season. This is a man whose footballing identity, whose trophy cabinet, whose prime years were forged entirely next to one man. 9 years and 4 Champions Leagues with Ronaldo. 2 seasons and a domestic league title with Messi. When asked to name the greatest player football has ever produced, Ramos chose the man he spent the least time next to. That is not an accident. That is a verdict. Before going further, Ronaldo's own resume needs to be laid out honestly. This is not a debate with an obvious answer. It exists precisely because both cases are extraordinary. 5 Ballon d'Or, 2008, 2013, 2014, 2016, and 2017. 973 career goals, a figure he reached this year after winning a Saudi Pro League title with Al Nassr. No other footballer in the entire history of this sport has scored that many. For his country, the numbers are even more singular. 131 international goals in 221 caps for Portugal, the most international goals scored by any player in the history of men's football. Not close to the record. The outright record. The one gap in that resume has always been the World Cup. He never won it. And 2026 was confirmed before the tournament even began as his final attempt. He said as much to Piers Morgan directly. Portugal were eliminated by Spain in the round of 16 on July 6, 2026. Mikel Merino in the first minute of stoppage time, 1-0. Ronaldo's World Cup career ended there. 27 appearances, 11 goals across 6 different tournaments, the first player in history to score in 6 separate World Cups. ESPN reported he called it a clear conscience exit. He was visibly emotional on the pitch at the final whistle. Portugal's manager Roberto Martinez resigned immediately afterward. This was not a quiet ending. This was the closing chapter of one of the most decorated careers the sport has ever seen, closing without the one trophy that eluded him across 20 years of trying. 5 Ballon d'Or, nearly 1,000 career goals, the all-time international record. Ronaldo's case for the greatest of all time is not a weak one, it is extraordinary, which is precisely what makes Ramos's answer so significant. He wasn't choosing between a legend and a pretender, he was choosing between two of the greatest players who have ever lived, and he chose the one he spent less time standing next to. Now Messi's side of the same ledger. 8 Ballon d'Or, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2015, 2019, 2021, and 2023. The all-time record, 3 more than Ronaldo. Not a marginal gap, a structural one, spanning nearly 15 years of the sport's most prestigious individual honor. Over 900 career goals combined for club and country, a mark he reportedly crossed at Inter Miami in March 2026. And then the trophy that separates the two men's resumes more definitively than any other single achievement, the World Cup. Messi won it. 2022 Qatar. Argentina's first World Cup title since 1986. 2 World Cup golden balls to his name across his career, recognizing him as the tournament's best player, not once, but twice. And, in 2026, at 39 years old, in what was almost certainly his final World Cup, Messi did it again, reached the final with defending champions Argentina, becoming the oldest outfield player ever to start a World Cup final. He lost 1-0 to Spain after extra time, but he got there. At an age when most players have long since retired from international football entirely, he still carried his nation to the very last match of the tournament. This is the full context. Ramos was weighing when he gave that answer in February 2023. Before Messi had even won the World Cup, he would go on to lift later that same year. Ramos made his call knowing Ronaldo's trophy room intimately, from the inside, having spent 9 years sharing the same dressing room. He made his call on Messi from just 2 seasons of direct experience, plus everything else the football world already knew about him. 8 Ballon d'Or to 5. A World Cup won versus a World Cup never won. Over 900 career goals versus 973. Close enough to argue about forever. What is not arguable is which way the man who played alongside both of them leaned, without being asked directly, without a single word said against the man he did not pick. Here is the detail that turns this from an interesting quote into something that feels almost written by football itself. Spain, Sergio Ramos' own country, the nation he represented more times than any player in its history, is the exact team that ended both Ronaldo's and Messi's World Cup runs in 2026. The same tournament, the same opponent, the same final scoreline. Spain beat Portugal and Ronaldo in the round of 16 on July 6, 2026. 1-0. Mikel Merino in stoppage time, the end of Ronaldo's final World Cup campaign. Then Spain beat Argentina and Messi in the final itself on July 19th. 1-0 again, after extra time. Ferran Torres in the 106th minute. The end of Messi's last chance at a second title. One nation, one tournament. Both players at the center of the greatest individual debate in the sport's history, eliminated by the same team within the same 3 weeks. And the man who once said, calmly and without prompting, that Messi was the best the sport had ever produced, is a Spaniard, watching his own country become the instrument that ended both men's World Cup dreams in the same summer. Lay the numbers alongside each other one final time. Ronaldo, 5 Ballon d'Or, 0 World Cups, 973 career goals, 131 international goals, the all-time record for men's football. Messi, 8 Ballon d'Or, 1 World Cup, over 900 career goals combined. Both men's international careers now closed at the same tournament, ended by the same nation, in the same July. Ramos never said Ronaldo was not great. He never had to. 9 years beside him, 4 Champions Leagues won together. And still, when given the chance to answer honestly, he did not reach for the familiar name. That is not an insult. That is something more convincing than an insult could ever be. A verdict delivered quietly by the one person in the debate who had played with both men and had absolutely nothing to gain from saying it either way. So here is where this actually lands. Sergio Ramos never destroyed Cristiano Ronaldo with a single cutting remark. He didn't need to. He simply told the truth about who he considered the greatest player the sport has ever produced. After 9 years, standing next to one of the two men in this conversation, and only 2 seasons standing next to the other. 5 Ballon d'Or against 8, 0 World Cups against 1. Both men's international careers now closed at the same tournament, eliminated by the same nation, Ramos's very own country, within 3 weeks of each other. The numbers are genuinely close enough to argue about for another generation. The man who won 4 Champions Leagues with one and a domestic league title with the other didn't seem to think the answer was all that complicated. Who's your GOAT, Messi or Ronaldo? Drop your verdict below, subscribe, and stay close.